Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Citizen Uprising. I am your host, Robert Rule. Today is... I don't even know what today is. But today, I believe, is April the 18th, 2012. A couple things weighing on my mind today. The eligibility issue seems, and I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, we got a lot of people whose parents don't seem to be American citizens. Obama is one of them. Then you've got Mark Rubio, who they're hoping will be vice president. And then there's Romney. Yeah. I try not to get into arguments anymore. It's just not worth my time. You know, when you're on Facebook and you see your friend makes a post and somebody else has got to say, well, you better vote for this guy if you want to beat Obama. Really? Is that your strategy? Well, what happened to it? The days of the real America are gone. You know, people 100 years ago would not put up with this crap. They would not put up with it. The old men that seem to be getting older now and dying off, they're sitting back in their chairs right now, saying, if I was 20 years younger, I'd haul off and whoop your ass. Because you guys just don't care about freedom anymore. You don't care about your Constitution anymore. You just don't care. You're gonna hold your nose and vote again just because the media tells you to. The media tells you this is the darling. This is the only guy that has a chance. He's not the only guy that has a chance, by the way. Ron Paul's actually beaten Romney in some of those polls to beat Obama. But you won't hear that in the mainstream media. If you do, it's an article on the last page somewhere. You're not going to hear that. You're just not going to hear it. Because they don't want Ron Paul. Because they're happy with the little empire that they built. It's a group of good old boys. And Ron Paul's just not in it. He's not in the group. They control the media. They control talk radio. That's why we have to resort to the internet. And it won't be long before they control this too. Then what are we going to do? Now, I've studied the old definitions. The old definition, see, the founders weren't stupid, contrary to popular belief. Everybody always talks about the 1/3 clause, when slaves only counted as 1/3. Well, that's because the slave owners would have more votes. Of course, they would vote for slavery. And that's why they made it 1/3 of a vote. That way, see, you wonder why some of the founders had slaves, and that's because, and a lot of smart black people know this. Well, here's a side note. In New York, they had more slaves than some states in the South. And there were a lot of black slave owners too, by the way, that you never hear about. But how can I put this? The founders, some of the founders tried to get the slavery abolished when they were writing the Constitution, but the majority of them didn't want to, because that's what they were accustomed to. You're accustomed to driving a car. You're accustomed to watching TV. You're accustomed to listening to the radio. You're accustomed to your cup of coffee in the morning. It's hard to get rid of those things that we are accustomed to. You see what I'm saying? Now, they weren't stupid. They put little clauses in there and they did little things so that eventually things would change. And they did. Their plans worked. They weren't stupid. Now they also knew that they were in a war with Britain, and they didn't trust the British, and they knew that the British would do anything to get these colonies back. And they did come back. Now, the founders had a definition for natural born. They had a definition for naturalized. It wasn't put into the Constitution because it was just assumed that everyone knew that. Now, some things they couldn't have foreseen. They couldn't have foreseen the language changing, the meaning of words. And we see that every day now. Every day today, the meaning of words change. Liberals now are Stalin and Mao loving people. But the founders were liberals. Did you know that? They considered themselves liberals. They were constitutional, free men. Liberty, justice. Liberals today don't want that. They want a dictatorship. So words always today change. Their meanings change. And if you think that's by coincidence, think again. I personally think that's another strategy for attorneys and lawyers. We've got way too many of those. And some of my friends are attorneys, and they won't take offense to it because they understand my position. I once sat next to a senator, and it was funny because we were the guy giving a presentation was talking about how there's too many lawyers that become politicians and they screw everything up because of technicalities and this and that, and they throw common sense out the window, which is true. And this senator, I knew he was an attorney, turns over to me and he says, "What do you think about that?" I said, I agree 100%. I think if you're an attorney, you should not be a politician. And he says, "You know I'm an attorney, right?" I said, "Yep." I just don't give a damn, people. You have to stand up. If you don't stand up, who's going to stand up? You're going to sit and wait for someone else to stand up, or are you going to do it? I really don't care if people like me or hate me. That's the way it is. I'm protecting my Constitution for my children. People will do anything for their children, you know. And those of you out there who say, well, it's not going to be like Nazi Germany or blah blah blah, the wrong person is never going to get into power. Oh, we don't have to worry about anything. Do me a favor. Enroll your kids in a martial arts class, hand-to-hand combat. Take your kids to the shooting range. Teach them how to fire a weapon. I want you to also put your kid in a survival class. At least do that. Then if the tyranny never comes, hey, whatever. At least you left them. Here we go again. There's got to be a way to stop that. I'll look into that. Anyway, at least do that for them. At least do that for your children. If you're not going to defend their constitution, if you're not going to defend their rights, if you're not going to save them some opportunities in the future, at least equip them to handle what's coming. Could you do that for me? I would feel a lot better that your children at least had some skills to survive. So anyway, back to the eligibility. We got 3 people they really want in there. Why, we don't yet know. We know Obama was elected to carry out the banker bailouts, make sure that the big banks got their money, make sure that some new executive orders were put forth. He had to make sure we got rid of posse comitatus. He had to make sure Homeland Security was beefed up, got their ammunition and weapons and implemented them elsewhere. That was his job. His job was to do all this. Now, if you know history, you know that in order to be a natural born citizen, your father had to be a citizen of the United States. Those are the rules. Now, people brought up John McCain, which they shouldn't have, because both of his parents were in the military. It doesn't matter where the hell they're at. If they're in the military, that kid's an American. Okay? Because that's the most American thing you can do, is join the military and fight for your country. Okay? So there shouldn't have even been an argument there. And I don't even like the guy. Obama's father, just like a president in history, what was his name? What was his name? Chester Arthur, who was born in Britain and lied to the American people of his origins. He was a British subject. And then there was a publication written in the American Law Review that backed up what I just said. That your father had to be an American citizen. Because back then they didn't have the women's rights. Okay? The men did everything, and your father had to be an American citizen. Obama's father was not. He was a Kenyan student. Everybody knows, it's very well known. And oh, that brings up another thing. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but I read today an article, and I'm going to wait for more articles to come out so that I can verify it. So don't quote me on this. But it appears that Obama's attorney has admitted that the birth certificate that was put online was a forgery. It was fake. And that's what Sheriff Arpaio in Maricopa County, Arizona, came to the conclusion of when they did an investigation. And they said they had a person of interest in that investigation. And you know, since the sheriff down there started investigating, the Obama administration had been coming down pretty hard on him. But you know what I say to the I'm not a birther, I'm just making an observation here, and I say to those people, hey, you know, the Republicans didn't do anything about it. So if you're going to blame anybody, blame the Republicans. They should have vetted it. And he's in there now. He's your president, and he won fair and square. And I know you don't want to hear it, but that's the way it is. I have to call him president. But back to the history lesson. Now you've got Mark Rubio, who wants to be vice president. And Romney may very well pick him. But here's the problem. His father was not an American citizen. Now, here's where it gets tricky. And here's where the attorneys would normally come in. The other two are cut and dry. But now Romney's father left America to go to Mexico to live on in a Mormon compound. Then he came back. Mitt Romney was born here. Now, how do you decide that? And the point that I am getting at here, to sum everything up. Oh, and by the way, that the Obama people will try to point out state legislation, things that states determine. Well, that doesn't mean anything when it comes to the Constitution. The Constitution is clear, and states can say whatever they want, but they can't supersede the Constitution, just like the federal government can't supersede the Constitution. And that's where the whole states' rights thing comes in to play if you don't understand. The states have a right to refuse what the federal government's doing because the federal government is trying to supersede the Constitution. And it can go both ways. Now, if the state is trying to supersede the Constitution, then the federal government can come in and say, nope, you can't do that. Okay? There's a balance of power. Okay? Now, back to this. Out of 300 some million Americans, how many of those are natural born? I don't know. But my question is, out of all those millions of people, we can't find one damn candidate who had both parents born right here on this soil, and maybe even their grandparents, and run them for president. You can't do that. How hard would that be? I don't imagine it could be too hard. So why are they picking these people whose parents are from other countries? If somebody can answer that for me, I would appreciate it. Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, you guys want to take a stab at it? You've been bullshitting us the whole time. I mean, you might as well take a stab at that question. What's your answer? Does it have something to do with the United Nations pushing this Agenda 21 crap? And no real American citizen will go for it? Hell, I bet you even the immigrants wouldn't go for it. Even the naturalized citizens who took all the tests, who know more about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and our history than most school children. And they're proud to be Americans, and they came from communist countries to get away from this stuff. Why are we bringing it here, and why are we letting it happen? Somebody, please let me know. And off the subject, Dick Clark died at 82. Seems he went in for an outpatient procedure, was kept there for observation, had a heart attack, and died. Couldn't resuscitate. Now back to the subject. I really don't want to hear one more damn person say to me, you have to support Romney because we gotta beat Obama. Brother, I don't have to do anything but pay taxes and die. Okay? I know the guy that I'm gonna vote for. I know a guy who's been married for 50 some years to the same woman, who was a medical doctor, who was a flight surgeon in the Air Force, who worked at churches as a doctor, volunteering, who, if his patients couldn't afford treatment, he paid for it himself, who never voted to raise taxes, who never voted against the Constitution, who never took a congressional junket. He always returned a portion of his budget back to the United States Treasury every year. And you're going to say you don't want to vote for this guy because you don't like his foreign policy and you don't like the way his voice sounds? Really? Is that all you got? Seriously? And does your boss take you serious? How did you get your job? I mean, are you the listeners out there taking these people seriously when they say something like that, knowing this man's history and knowing the other people's history? Then you're gonna take them over this guy? Woo! I thought I was the one drinking beer. And then I heard on TV the other night, I was watching some talking head, and they were all going on about Obama went down to Colombia, and Chris Matthews asked about the drug war and what they could do about it. And you know, Ron Paul wants to end the drug war and legalize some things. And so all these talking heads were going, well, if we end the drug war, if we legalize them, everybody will be doing it. Yeah, as soon as you, I can't wait, brother. I got my money in my pocket. As soon as you legalize heroin, I'm going to get me some. Really? How many? Oh boy, this damn thing is pissing me off. How many of you are out there with a bundle of cash in your pocket waiting for the drugs to be legal? Cigarettes kill people. Alcohol kills people. Everything's going to kill you sooner or later. Look at the air we breathe. There's no SWAT teams rushing into these factories, shooting their dogs. Then I gotta breathe that crap. And that's taking years off my life. If people want to go be junkies, let them go be junkies. If they break into my house and try and steal something, shoot them. Good riddance. Who cares? If we weren't over in Afghanistan protecting the poppy seeds to make the heroin, it wouldn't be here. I mean, we can't protect our borders, seriously. We're too busy busting Americans to pay attention to the borders. So that's what's been bugging me tonight. There's some things in the news today. Nothing really big other than well, frankly, it's not really that important. The most important thing is this. The most important thing is that you think for yourself and you ask the right questions. Don't argue with people. It's just not worth it. You're going to drive yourself crazy. There's obviously something wrong with those people. They're being brainwashed somehow. I don't know. I don't know where they get their thinking at. I really don't. A lot of people still like Rush Limbaugh. They think he's great. He tells the truth, though. That guy's so full of it, I can't even believe it. And you got people, Savage, Michael Savage, he used to be really good. But he started turning. RT. They gave Ron Paul a lot of love. But lately they've been turning. I don't know what their game is. How do you know what I'm talking about? RT. It's the new news station out of Russia. I don't know what they're doing, but it isn't good. They're not up to any good. Fox News, they maybe tell the truth an eighth of the time. We know the others don't ever tell the truth. If they do, it's on the back page. So it's up to you. It's up to you to get the word out. It's up to you to get some knowledge. But don't argue with people. It's just going to cause them to resent you and resent what you stand for. I know it's frustrating. I sit here every night on the computer. I did it for a long time, but I vowed not to do it anymore. I'm just not going to get frustrated. I'm going to be very nice. But I'm not going to shy away. I'm going to say what I mean and mean what I say. And you're either going to like me or you're not. But I'm not going to get into a confrontation. It's just not worth it. I've got my life to live. I'm not going to devote 100% of my time to arguing with one idiot. It's not worth it. So, I think we're going to try a couple different ways. I'm doing a live stream, and then what I do is I record the show and then I upload it on YouTube so that you can hear it later. Coming down the pipe, I'm working on a couple different ways for you to call in, give your input. I really want to hear what you have to say. I'd love to have a conversation, and this way also I could get good quality guests on. I have some attorneys in mind, some sheriffs, some freedom fighters, some politicians. Well, actually, these ones are representatives, not to be confused with a politician who goes along to get along. Santorum. But it was interesting that Santorum sent flyers out to people in Iowa saying that Romney frightens him. Something funny's going on there. I haven't quite put my finger on it yet. But if you're a big Ron Paul fan, it's time to get those Santorum people over in your corner now. But again, be nice. Get more bees with honey, people. And you know, I really want this show to take off. It's boring just to hear me for a half hour to an hour. I know. I can be boring sometimes. I tend to repeat myself. I tend to ramble on to another subject and forget the point I was trying to make. So I have to put little post-its up and remind me what subject I'm on. But it works. So I would like to have a lot more guests on. I would like to have you guys calling in, give your input. You want to argue with me? You know? Hey, I might feel like arguing that night. You never know. If I don't want to argue with you, don't be offended if I just hang up. You're welcome to call back. It's all good. I don't discriminate. I don't alienate. You're always welcome back. Unless you're gonna call up and swear, the whole time. I'm not gonna tolerate that. So, that's all I have tonight. And make sure you get out there and educate those people. If you figure out what's going on, let me know. Good night, and God bless.